Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's astrologer Eric Rosen, getting some sun today. Going to wrap up the future video, the three-part series of the astrology for 2020. This may actually just come on the heels of that video, but it slipped my mind to do the exercise for it. So I'm just going to roll right into it because I do want to give some practical methods for how to integrate all this like high level astrology that I've been covering. So number one, this is actually supposed to be a part of the present. This exercise is called getting a higher perspective on your beliefs. Now, one thing that can really mess people up this year is fighting about their beliefs. Who's right, who's wrong, Republicans versus Democrats, spiritual versus religious, atheists versus believe in something, whatever it is. But then there's also, even if you're, a compassionate enough person that knows better than to fight with other people, there's still some, I think, internal conflict about us releasing some old, antiquated belief systems this year. Jupiter in Capricorn and a South Node in Sag can almost want to lock into what it knows because that gives it the comfort to kind of get the Capricorn job done. But that's what's making this such a magical but also like crazy year, is that you're having to almost do it with a sense of curiosity with the North Node in Gemini. And so you're basically just using tools you find along your path to get the job done, as opposed to having some tried and true belief system that you rely on. And even core values, like relying on those values that I talked about in the first exercise from the video that I did for part one of the series for the past. If you didn't check that out, it's really worth it, even if you just go to the end and do the exercise. Even those are shifting with the Uranus and Taurus. So higher perspective on beliefs. Think about the opportunity cost of fighting with others about your beliefs, debating about whatever it is, Democrats, Republicans, who's going to be the president. Just people seem to be going nuts after that first presidential debate. It gives the mind drama to keep it busy, but it's like, what are you missing out on when you're wanting to be right? Like, people just really almost turn deaf, like, if you ask them this question, because it's basically putting it in their face to say, like, hey, like, we'll put it from a compassion standpoint, like, I need you to address the fact that you do have a choice here. You do have a freedom to choose. Typically there's a choice between drama and conflict and joy and happiness and freedom. So drama is always taking the place in someone's life, where they're not feeling their joy and their happiness and just what makes their heart, burst open in a good way. So think about the things you wish you were doing and find time to do them by dropping out of the battling of belief systems, whether that's within yourself or with other people. So you might say, oh, well, but I can't do the stuff I want to do because, with that South Node and Sag, it's kind of like it just makes things weird and uneasy and heavy with being able to travel and do all the things that we want to do. But I think a lot of that is more of the Chiron and Aries element of the ego just like wanting things the way that it wants it, when it's not really truly giving us the freedom anyways that we want. It's not giving us what our heart truly wants to prevail with. And so this is about, not falling into victim mentality with Chiron and Aries, and the over hopefulness of waiting for tomorrow for, a post-COVID world or whatever it is, or after the presidential debate or whatever, for people to kind of move on and start doing the stuff they want. It's like, be okay with those doors closing, because there's actually grand doors opening in more of a metaphysical sense. And it's like, walk through those and then enjoy what's on the other side of it at the end of the Capricorn journey. And so make a list of do not debate topics. Like, I'm just basically not going to argue about this. I saw a meme the other day. I don't think it's anything new. I think I've seen it before, where Keanu Reeves, who I just literally last night watched the new Bill and Ted, which is highly woke. I highly recommend it. Even a movie that has as silly as concept as that is actually really phenomenal. There was a meme of Keanu Reeves, And it said, what was it? It was like, yeah, if someone, he's like, I'm over the point in my life where I argue with people. He's like, if someone comes up to me and says, 1 + 1 = 5, he's like, you're absolutely right. You know? So it's like, what do you really want to argue about? Why, and why do you want to argue about it? It's like on a deeper philosophical level, it's like, what is convincing them that you're right doing for you? Is it justifying you to stay in, where you're not totally happy, and so misery loves company, and so you want to bring other people into that if you're not feeling in your best place? Or, are you really not truly just sovereign in your own belief of who you are and so authentic that in that authenticity, it's almost like automatically, because it's within yourself, you automatically understand everyone else has their own authentic perspective of life and thus their beliefs. And so why would you try to force your belief upon them and make them believe in the same thing? Of course, the answer is because the mind, has to just like fixate and just like know things, but it drives the mind crazy that truth is just way more relative in a lot of general sense, especially this year with that South Node and Sag. The universe is just changing so much. So yeah, it's like asking, why am I emotionally charged over this issue too? So that's like the higher level philosophical, maybe kind of deep to some degree, but more on a personal level. It's asking the question, what's the trigger for me in this? It's like, yeah, if someone's like, I don't know, if they're like, yeah, Trump sucks and he's terrible with women and this and that. It's like, all right, where do you have a problem with the feminine? Because it's like, if you were truly rooted in your understanding and really rooting for women to rise up and also the divine feminine, the feminine qualities that exist in men too, that are very important. I don't think that you would have such a vendetta against him, if that makes sense, because you would be like, all right, yeah, this dude just got some issues. He's got to work on himself. I had to work on it too. I figured it out. Sending them love, whatever. Like, we're all working through shit, like this is projection we're talking about. It's judgment. So then ask yourself, where is there an unconscious contribution of your own thinking to the problem you see with the other side's opinion or belief? I wish I would have changed this sentence because I've read it like 3 times. It never makes sense to me. Basically, it's just what I said. It's like, where's something that you see in the world that you really have a problem with, like a reflection of something that you're not acknowledging within yourself. What within yourself is showing you that you're not embracing. That's the shadow side. Shadow work is a big thing right now. I already gave an example, so I'll skip that. Funny, I used the Trump one again. Ironically, the things that we get the most upset about with others is the exact thing we aren't paying attention to that resides within our shadow. I kind of thought ahead of myself without reading. Bring some compassion and non-judgment to the people you disagree with. That's the challenge this year, especially now. Things can seem pretty dry, and it might be hard to love on other people, but that's just where we're starved for our own love. And so quality time alone is actually really crucial right now, believe it or not, as I'm filming this, which is October 7th, 6th, which shows it on the video anyway. So yeah, can you bring compassion to yourself when you identify the part of you that shares the same characteristic as someone you disagree with? It's that shadow. Can you take that alone time to sit with it and accept all parts of yourself? That's something I'm moving through right now. There's certain parts of my self, from all the way from top down, from my unique gifts and talents of how I'm just intrinsically unique to my ego. There's some parts that I'm really proud of. I'm very proud to be able to do astrology and to stand and deliver a message, but then there's parts that I don't like, so I'm learning to accept those. And there's this ironic thing where that's how you win, to use another Keanu Reeves reference. That's how, in the Matrix, at the end, he wins the fight. He surrenders to the inferior shadow darkness that is Agent Smith and lets it consume him. And then he transmutes it and basically turns into Christ consciousness when he turns all orange in the city of the machines or whatever. And so, yeah, we think that it's going to be like a death sentence, accepting this. And so we're kind of getting into like ego healing too. But this is a huge part of like this combination of your belief systems are almost like the barricades of the outer kingdom that you think is a kingdom. It's really a shithole that's protecting your ego. And it's like, let that stuff down. Because we have all been fooled into thinking changing someone else's behavior and not our own, well, that's supposed to say will solve the world's problems. We see that all the time. Well, if we would just have this president, or if you would just do this, or if this group would just do that, or if these people would do that, it's like it's almost like everyone is like invisibly walking around flipping everyone off with the middle finger, you know. And of course, there's beauty out there. Don't get me wrong. Like there's love out there. There's people that are spreading love and positivity. You know, it's not the easiest right now because it's like it's really getting pretty cut and dry to where you're unhappy in your own life, and then we can project negativity out there. I have to watch for that for sure. I have to watch for it during this video as I'm talking about this stuff. But you know, it's like I lost my channel there. Yeah, it's basically just like when you're sitting there going, well, you know, they need to change, they need to do this, but it's like you're not taking responsibility, you know. You have to take responsibility for the shadow, and there's a lot of shadow right now, but there's a lot of shadow too because we're going through a huge shift of, you know, much light opening up in the world more than it ever has, and so there's a automatic contrast of shadow with that to look at in order to level up. So, you know, yeah, you can't manipulate and change someone else's behavior. It's almost just like we try to get um, we're trying to like control things and keep things the same and keep our behaviors the same so we don't have to grow and evolve. It's like it triggers us to see someone like doing well right now, especially with all this Capricorn. Like there's people that are way ahead. So it's calling into question, you know, where you're not doing the shadow work. I would say, you know, I think I mentioned this in an earlier video. It's like shadow work is a huge part of Capricorn. I think it's one of the new definitions of it, quite honestly. It's like, can you go through all the shadow, you know, disagreements within yourself to get to something you desire at a higher spiritual level and seize that destiny, carpe diem. So focus on what you can command, take that responsibility. By giving ourselves grace for our own perceived sins, we will eventually stop projecting our own inner judgments into the world. It seems lofty, but it's possible. You know, it just takes enough people getting on board with this, you know. And this is why in all the movies they like write about, you know, catastrophes happening and like us needing like a wake up call, whether it's like Mother Earth giving us a bunch of disasters or aliens coming. It's like, do we have to face a collective threat that threatens all of us for us to like stop being divided by our belief systems for essentially being religious wars? Or can we figure it out now, like when the writing's on the wall with problems like global warming and, you know, people just, some people like mental health, you know, not paying attention to the overall mental health of the US, just the weird stuff in the media. I could go on and on, you know, third world countries, whatever. Although I heard they don't like being called that because some of them are actually a lot happier than a lot of Americans. So that's a topic for another day. Live and let live seems simple, but what's preventing you from doing it? I think we pretty much went over some of those possibilities, but that's to dig into on a personal level. When you find out how you have contributed to the chaos and suffering in the world from vibrations of your own thoughts and stories that are linked to the collective consciousness, oneness, bring compassion to yourself. That's what the world needs, is compassion. You know, people will talk about, well, we need to take action, we need to do these things. I agree. I completely agree, but I think simultaneously we need to be riding waves of compassion in order for change to happen in a positive direction, if that makes sense. Because we can take action and innovate and take a new direction, but it's like, will we just be going from the city of Atlantis to the city of Rome, so to speak, like meaning that we just be transitioning to another civilization society that gets too big for its britches and breaks apart because its morals and ideals just get out of whack. And so if you can bring that compassion, that non-judgment element, which automatically is going to free us up from just conflict and harming living things of all varieties, then I would say that's going into a pretty positive zone. So this last exercise especially ties to that future forecast that I gave, overcoming fear and anxiety about the future. Uranus and Taurus makes things highly unstable. It's our central nervous systems are taxed. Just trying to figure out money projects. I think some people are maybe confused because they just don't feel fulfilled, like with their skill set, because there's a talent that is hidden or is like has emerged, but they don't want to use it because it doesn't fit into the old Capricorn traditional narrative that died earlier this year. And so, there's a lot of fear about what's coming, even just in a basic sense. It's like COVID and just everything, the economical impact, like it changed forever, like on that 3D level, but everything has changed too on a psychological, emotional level as well. And that produces fear and anxiety because we've never been here before. We fear the unknown. So the ones that are stepping it up just kind of made peace with it, that, oh, wow, I can actually turn fear and anxiety into excitement, because if I'm standing and rooted in the confidence and the inner knowing of my unique talents tied to spirit and service and helping others and turning this into an adventure, they don't, fall like victim to the fear and anxiety. And so, there feels like that maybe there's like a lull a little bit right now where like there is fear and anxiety in people. I know I have it. Really, everybody has it. But then there's also like this overlay of like, you're either still like, okay, the fear and anxiety is there, but I'm still doing the work anyway. And then there's the ones that it's like, yeah, I fear and anxiety, but I have over hopefulness and optimism about things getting better, but they're also like not doing anything except waiting for the world to change. And so it's like the hopefulness, the optimism becomes like realism when you're actually doing the work to know that you're changing within yourself, because you're going to have to be the one that changes the world. It's not just going to change for us. It'll just stay the same and nosedive. So some people are gonna be like, no thanks, this is too uncomfortable for me, but we're gonna cut deep here. This is getting deep into some fears. This is the best tool that I know to give someone, like, for themselves working on their own. Although shameless pitcher, I will tell you that working with a qualified practitioner that deals with I do, like, I'm able to set compassion for you to feel a little bit more comfortable moving through things. But it's okay to move through the stuff solo too. I don't want to paint the picture that you have to pay somebody to do the stuff for you. You can do it. Write down your top 10 fears. Make a list of at least 2 instances where you are afraid to be yourself because you fear the rejection of others. This is a big one because, evolving into authenticity and playing own music, just not to give a move, but it's like, can you play your own music? Can you play your own instrument in life? Can you speak your truth? What are those fears that are preventing you from doing that? Honestly, I would try for like more like 6, but at least 2. So a cup and a half of water, lie down. Want to go to a place, not sleep consciousness, that it's a different experience. I recommend having some type of flowing water, like a fountain, essential oil diffuser, or open flame candle or fire pit. And with the purification of any fears that come up, it's using elemental purification, the elements, earth, wind, fire, water. but especially fire and water for this. Take a couple of deep breaths and give a nice loud exhale through the mouth. So it's like this. Just letting whatever, stupid sounding sound that comes out of your mouth, because the point is, it doesn't matter what it sounds like. You're not trying to like mimic what I'm doing. You're releasing, like, it's almost like a frustrated sigh, but you're not forcing it. It's just like letting that shit go. Affirm to the universe your intention. This is important. Be very intentional. You want to experience fears in your body. Most of the time we're experiencing them in our mind. We want to feel them more at a body level, where they're getting stored. Where they're getting stored is where we have to go in and use the key of our, conscious and subconscious mind and our intention to unlock that door, to let it loose. Express your sincerity with conviction in your words and emotions behind the words. Since the mind wants to keep us in a safe and comfortable state, we really have to take control of our thoughts here and really strongly affirm we want to feel the fear. Understand as you begin, this cannot hurt you, it cannot kill you, although it may seem like it could, because your mind's like, no, stupid, this is uncomfortable, I'm trying to keep you safe, don't go here. But the mind tells a lot of lies. It's medicine, and there are no spoonfuls of sugar to take it with in this exercise, but it will heal you. There's a lot of really beautiful stuff that can come at the end of this. One thing I'll point out is, like, there's potential, if as you start going through this, as I get into more of this, if you're feeling like sensations in the head or pressure in the head, that's when you know that you're still having very much a mental experience and not so much in the body. You really shouldn't feel too much going on up here, especially in this area. And so you might have to say, like, God, or curse, like, God dang, like, really cursing, but you know what I mean. It's like, I really, really want to feel these fears in my body. I got this from a friend who's like, really kind of a mentor I check in with, because he does a lot of spiritual self-study. And he said, hey man, don't be afraid to say, hey God, like, if you're, let me feel this fear in my body, because do that, like, because it's like Old Testament stuff, he's going to strike me down by lightning. It's like, no, God wants to hear all of it. Like, God gives the experience as your mind is relaxed. So the thing is that you might, and I should have added this in the text, but it's like, because like what you're going into, you want to, when you lie down, you actually want to take a few minutes to, like, actually just relax, just chill out for a little bit and let your mind calm, let your body relax. Maybe do a count. Actually, I had that in there. Count down in your head from 10 to 1. And when you reach 1, you will be fully relaxed in your body. So you're basically just giving your kind of relaxed, safe to do so. For people that are really spiritually minded, it's like, if you want to call in a space of infinite quantum healing or divine compassion, of possible to call in your guides to help, and loving ones, benevolent ones, and not calling something in that's going to just perpetuate fear, because that stuff can't happen. Like, the mind will project things that thinks it's our intuition and like our angels and stuff. So not to scare people, but it's just like, really just make sure that you're calling those things in from your heart space, and that they feel good to you, and that you're calling in specific loving, benevolent forces, which can now let the fear in, let it into the body. It can't hurt you. Only avoiding possesses a risk. Because fear avoidance in our life is, believe it or not, the thing that creates havoc for us, that creates heartache and just, yeah, disappointment and despair. It's being afraid to be who we are. See and especially feel this fear in the body. Really focus on taking the nose and out through the mouth. So it's like that. maybe even a little bit slower than that, just whatever feels comfortable. It's like if you can connect to the breath and just breathe through whatever's coming up and just move through it in the body and not be in the mind where the mind's like, well, just can't take it anymore. Call it in even more. Body discomforts that arise are normal. It's part of the release. Yeah, I mean, I've had, and this is not uncommon, for people's bodies to kind of like shake a little bit because again, these fears are stored in the body and the tissues, and so it's just like when you see a cartoon character's knees like wobbling and shaking, like when they're fearful, or just even just what a real animal does. It's just shaking that stuff loose. It's shaking it out of your central nervous system where it never got fully unlocked and released. So I would say continue. I'm just going to tell you to go for 45 minutes. Just that, just can be fine. It could feel weird, it could feel scary, but you'll be good. You'll know you've been successful when you feel like you just touched God's hand. So not to set expectations, but there is something really beautiful on the other side of this. To use an astrology terminology, I've used this before where it's like people go out to Neptune where things are like very spiritually minded, and but then it's almost like they forget that like there's a step further. It's like it goes Neptune and then Pluto on the outer edge of the, goes like the deep. So if you don't bring in both elements, you're not really getting a full life experience. And so people think that, oh, Neptune, spirituality, love and light only. It's like, no, like fear stuff too, to have total experience. And so it's almost like you go down to the underworld of Pluto and you go through all that, and then you find like the members only elevator that takes you up to a level of the tower of Neptune, that antenna looking thing that people can't get to because they kind of come back. So yeah, definitely journal about your experience. Really capitalize on going. I think sometimes, speaking from personal experience too, we don't always recognize how well we're doing, and become the hungry ghosts of war that's never satisfied. And so finding satisfaction by journaling, reflecting, and appreciating your efforts, and especially and all of it, but your breakthroughs too. So that's what I got for you guys today. There's other ways to move through this. I do. It's kind of like guided meditation, hypnosis work, I guess you could describe it as. Clearing work for facilitation. So if you want to, because it is nice to have through it, knows how to help you through it. So I really, guys watching, you can reach out if you need help with that. If you enjoyed this, because as you can tell, like I'm not really pulling too much back in terms of giving value through this. Make a donation. You can hit that donation button. And then, if you guys want to do breath work, I'm here. If you want to do an astrology reading, I'm here. If you want to do really any form of, I am here. Out to you guys. Hope everyone's doing well. This is a huge time for everybody. Please, please, please don't wait. Don't wait to live your life. Whatever it takes. Capricorn picks up all the tools. It does what it takes. So you guys take care. Ta-ta for now.